Välkommen till MERA25s podcast. Här diskuterar vi det svenska samhället, Europa och vår politiska samtid. Men framförallt vad som krävs för att skapa en ljusare framtid. I det här avsnittet möter vi två engagerade röster från vår rörelse Democracy in Europe Movement. Det är Enas och Rune. Enas är lärare, palestinier, bosatt i Tyskland och en djupt engagerad medlem i DiEM25. Rune är antropolog, akademiker från Danmark och även han aktiv i vårt gemensamma europeiska projekt. Och Marc, ordförande för MERA25 Sveriges, träffar han båda i Belgrad, Serbien under DiEM25 Academy, där de samtalade om vikten av att organisera sig, att höja sin röst och stå i solidaritet med det palestinska folket, men också om varför kampen för Palestina handlar om mer än Palestina. Den handlar om rättvisa, frihet och mänsklig värdighet överallt. Jag hoppas att det här samtalet inspirerar fler att kliva fram och agera för ett fritt Palestina och en bättre värld. Detta avsnitt kommer att vara på engelska.
Hello, it's very nice to speak to you. Could you just let us know who are you? How are you involved in DiEM25?
Hi, I'm Enas, born and raised in Gaza and currently based in Germany. I actually recently joined DiEM with everything that's happening in Gaza, Palestine, and so many other parts of the world. I wanted to be part of something where I can be with people who are trying to make a positive change in the world and be able to organize and work together so that we have a positive impact on the policies and the realities we live, whether we live in the EU or in other places in the world, because it's all interconnected. And as we were looking to join one of these movements, we came across DiEM and we felt like this is the one that aligns most with our values.
Yeah, my name is Rune. I'm a Danish anthropologist. I live between Czech Republic, Germany, Denmark, and Central Asia. And I have gotten involved in DiEM because I've seen the global struggles for justice and against inequality, especially the heavy inequality that colonialism and neoliberalism have installed in the world. And I'm looking for people who are fighting against this on an international, global level. And I seem to have found that in DiEM25, and this Academy in Belgrade has been a really great experience and a great opportunity to meet like-minded people.
So what would you say is the moment, what would be the catalyst for your political engagement? And in many ways, of course, it's obvious, but is there a moment you can feel like, yeah, now I need to become part of an organized political movement?
I would say there are two parts to that question, and usually as Palestinians we're often asked this question, which is, at what point in your life did you first see it or hit you that you are living under an occupation, under colonialism? And the answer is there's no specific point. I was born into it. So from the moment I was born, I was already politicized as a person. I was born in Gaza to grandparents that were ethnically cleansed from Bara in 1948, what's today's Israel. And I was born into that. I grew up with grandparents who, till the last day of their lives, they were longing to go home. I remember the last time I saw my grandpa in Gaza, and we had our last conversation, he was still crying over Bara, over missing his homeland, over longing to go there. And then he passed away during the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And so there was no moment for political activism, for political action. It was my entire life. And in this world, when you see not just what's happening to you, but to so many others around you and to your communities, and again, I repeat, everywhere, not just in Palestine, but everywhere we live, there really isn't a moment like that. But as for organized political organization or party, I think we have been active in the Palestine movement and many other movements and struggles for liberation and justice. But there was a moment where I felt like I need to do more, we need to do more, and we hold the power in numbers, that this is an unequal and unjust world, but we, the people, we are the ones in control, we are the majority. And with that, I need to organize better and more with like-minded individuals. And I think in that moment, it was actually just a random moment in the streets in Berlin where I was like, there's more to be done. There's more that we can do. There's more power that we hold as the people. And this is when we started asking questions like a political party where we have hopefully more direct impact on the human issues and the human values that we believe in. That was the moment when we started looking for a political party. And I must say, because I am a Palestinian, I was born Palestinian, I was born and raised in Gaza, so I didn't have a choice but to be politicized. But I feel like right now a lot of people miss the idea that right now I don't feel anyone has a choice. So these struggles for justice and equality, we're not just fighting them for Palestine or for Congo or for the Uyghurs. We're fighting them for all of us, for justice for all of us, liberation for all of us, equal human rights for all of us. There are so many political issues and problems in Berlin, in Germany, not just regarding Palestine and Palestinians, but housing, healthcare, welfare. And these are all political issues. And we're trying to we're trying to be catalysts in bringing a society that is equal and just for everyone. And I feel with that, we have no other option but to organize and come together to bring this work forward, to create equal societies for all of us, regardless of anything else besides that we're all humans.
I have too long wanted to become politically organized. I have been politically active for a long time, but I haven't really been part of organizations. I've always had my problems with organizational structures, and still till today, the idea of being part of a party that takes part in capitalist representational politics is something that makes me feel uncomfortable. I think being part of the DiEM25 movement, at least for now, is more important to me than being part of MERA25 as a party. But I have come to realize that I need to be part of organized structures rather than trying to wing it on my own as an academic and as just an engaged community member, because there's some things we cannot achieve on our own, where we need the organizational ties, we need the support of each other. And just because we live in an extremely fragmented society that has been broken up into individualist fragments and parts, where community is no longer something we can take for granted, but something that we need to build. And I see DiEM25 as a movement that is trying to build that community, and I do want to be part of it. I would say there are two catalysts that brought me to think that way in the last few years. The first was something that maybe not that many people know about. I'm an anthropologist and I study the Uyghurs in northwestern China. And in 2017, they experienced a massive crackdown of racialized mass incarceration and of extreme state violence. This included many of my friends. And that made me realize that if I want to do something about that, it's not enough to just speak up as an academic. I need to be organized as well. The second thing is the genocide in Gaza. The extreme violence that has been brought upon the Palestinians, and the way that the West, our own governments, have been supportive or complicit or even directly involved in that genocide, has made me realize that we need a much stronger counter force, and that can only come through organizing. And so this has been my way into DiEM25, and also I do think, as I see it now, also into MERA25, though, as I said, that is more, there's more discomfort connected to that step for me.
And it's the movements that's important. It's the policies, the parties come secondary. They're just a vehicle for political change. So what would you say are like the most pressing issue for you right now?
That's a tough question. I mean, of course, being Gazan, having family in Gaza, and still family members, relatives, friends, loved ones, my entire childhood, my entire youth. Like, I studied in Gaza, I finished university in Gaza, and so all the major milestones in life, I lived them in Gaza. And of course, it would then be what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Palestine, not just in Gaza. What's happening in Palestine would be one of the most pressing issues for me, not just because of my personal connection and that this is my life, this is the life of my family, of my loved ones, of my friends, of my relatives, of my hometown, of my childhood and youth, but also because if we let this happen as humanity, as people, if we are letting what happened in Gaza happen, we're watching it after we have supposedly learned from our history and our past of past genocides and past massacres and colonialism and so on and so forth. If we let this happen, then what is the red line? Where does it end? Where is the stop for us? What is the point in which we would actually not allow such atrocities, genocide, massacres happen? And so it actually affects everyone.
What's most urgent for me right now is to stop the genocide in Gaza. But I don't think that it's possible to do that, at least not long term, without changing the structures that are behind it. And that is a reckoning with our colonial past and the way it still influences our presence today. And a very, very radical break with the enormous power that money has in our political system and the way our society is structured. And I think that without these structures behind, we will keep returning to genocides and massacres and injustice on a very, very massive and very violent level.
I would like to ask, what specific activities and goals are you working towards right now?
So right now, my brother and his wife are still in Gaza, and we have started a campaign to have them evacuated from Gaza. So I'm a Palestinian citizen, but Rune is a Danish citizen, so an EU citizen. And through the German law, we have the right to family reunification to my brother, and his wife has a right to family reunification through him. And we are trying to get them out of Gaza to come and be reunited with us. They have been in Gaza since the beginning of this genocide. They are being bombed every day. surveilled, starved. The last time we were able to have a video call, because we check on them as regularly as possible, but we're not always able to have video calls with them because Israel cuts the internet and connections very often and does not allow for it to be accessible and available for everyone in Gaza. And the last time we were on video call with him, he was wearing shorts because it's super hot. And it was the first time we actually saw his legs. And you could see how thin his legs are. You could see the outline of the small muscle and the bones. And he had lost 18 kilos, and so had his wife. So each one of them has lost 18 kilos. The food is very, very scarce if available, and extremely, extremely expensive, as it ends up in the hands of Israeli-backed gangs, Israeli-created gangs, actually, because we never had that issue in Gaza at all. We never had gangs or such violence among us at all. And so what we're trying to do now is to evacuate them, to get them to reunite and come live with us as they try to build a safe life where they try to heal from everything they have witnessed. That is, if you can at all heal from all of this. We have contacted, reached out, plead to the Danish and the German government to apply our right to have our families come live with us, be reunited with us in a safe place, instead of in Gaza, where their life is at risk every single day. And we know that these governments can evacuate them. Many European governments have evacuated citizens, family members, relatives, and others from Gaza through their diplomatic relations with Israel. They have not cut ties with Israel. They have not cut diplomatic relations, but they maintain them to do the evil. But when it is to do help, to do good, like evacuate our families from there, to come live with us in safety until we are able to go back home, they refuse to help. They sometimes send honestly outrageous replies. This has happened today again. I have again yesterday written to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Denmark, and they have yet again replied to me that if you don't have new information, we're actually not going to respond to your emails. Rune reached out to the Danish government, the Danish embassies in Palestine, in Egypt, to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Denmark. Maybe he can tell you a bit more about what they responded to him, the things they have written to him, and that they just refuse to help at all. We've hired a lawyer in Germany to also take our case to the migration department to apply for family reunification visas for my brother and his wife, and to get the visa and then evacuate them from Gaza to come join us in Germany. And so we have a lawyer. There are many lawyers who agree and see that this is even legally our legal rights, because we are their sponsors. We are the ones who have been financially providing for them throughout the whole past 22 months now. And so we have this right to family reunification. We have actually been providing them for over 22 months, but they have been completely, absolutely dependent just on us over the past 22 months, because they have lost their livelihood. Like, their workplace has been bombed. The university where my brother used to work, he's a data scientist. Iman is a primary school teacher. The university where my brother used to work is also co-founded by my family, that they have built, and it has been bombed to rubble. They have no way to a livelihood. They have lost their livelihoods. They have no way to work, to get money, to provide for their daily life. They have no access to clean water, no access to food. barely any access to food, and that's because they even have money from us to even get the food. And we're also at this time trying to get enough funding for our legal fight to reunite with them and to provide for them while they're in Gaza. And at the same time, we're trying to support them by other means, although sometimes it sounds mind-blowing that how do you get to have someone, continue their studies or do other courses or do another activity when their life is being shattered right in front of them. They're being bombed, starved, murdered every single day. They're witnessing that.
And the relatives, your relatives and their relatives around them are also being killed at the same time, right?
Yeah, Iman has already lost her sister and her brother. They have been killed in 2 different Israeli airstrikes. We have lost different friends and cousins that have been killed in other airstrikes. Iman's brother was actually killed in an airstrike where he was helping 2 little girls get bread. He was trying to give them bread. They were bombed. The 3 of them together were killed. And they are dealing with that every single day. My brother has lost most of his friends, and he could be next. Iman could be next. Every single day, we are checking on them. We are checking on our loved ones in Gaza, just hoping that they reply. We're not even expecting that to tell us, they're doing well or anything like that. No, we're just hoping that they reply at all. Because if they reply, if it's them replying, that means they're still alive. That means they have not been killed. And that is our biggest hope. And every single day, whenever I get a notification, just today, I actually woke up and I was feeling anxious. And I was telling Rune, how does one wake up already anxious? How do you not build up the anxiety during the day? Why do I wake up already anxious? And I had seen my phone get 2 notifications and a phone call, and I'm always terrified. I'm always terrified of opening my phone because so often we have gotten the news that someone has been killed, someone had been bombed, someone had been burnt in an airstrike through our phones, through our family group messages. The family group message that we have, you can't really scroll long enough before you see an image of someone that they tell you has been killed or they have been injured. Just today, a friend of ours, we got a new image on our family group that my mom sent, a friend of ours crying and hugging his niece who has been killed in an airstrike alongside her father. And that is an almost daily occurrence for me. It's a daily occurrence for sure in Gaza, but even just for me, it's almost a daily occurrence to see someone that has been killed that we know, that is related to us, or that we went to school with, or that we worked with, or that we taught. I was a teacher when I was in Gaza. I worked in education. I worked with children. I worked with the youth in sports initiatives. And so even my own students, I have gotten images of my own students that I taught when they were in the 2nd grade or the 3rd grade, having been bombed and killed, and the images of their bodies, or having lost their entire families, but they're still there, and we're still trying to figure out how do we support them, how do they maintain their life, how do they still have food on the table, although it's become nearly impossible. I don't know anyone in Gaza who is not exhausted, who is not malnutritioned, who's not mentally exhausted, physically exhausted.
Can you perhaps tell me a little bit more about the struggle to get the Danish or the German state to actually do something about it, do their duty?
Yes, so quite early in the genocide, we wrote both to the Danish and the German foreign ministries and the embassies in Egypt, in Israel and in Palestine in order to get their help in trying to evacuate Enas' brother and his wife from Gaza. And they back then said that they were not able to do this, and there was no path to that right now, but that they sympathized with our issue and so on and so forth. And for a while, we were then preoccupied with other things. The ceasefire came, and then Israel violated the ceasefire and restarted the war and the genocide. And from that point on, we started to feel, as Enas said before, that every day could be their last, and we needed to do everything we possibly could in order to try to evacuate them. And that included not taking no for an answer, but to keep being persistent. So we wrote to these different entities again, and we got the same kind of answers, basically saying that they were not close enough relatives for them to be involved in their evacuation, because they're not themselves German or Danish citizens, and they are neither the partners, spouses, or underage children of European citizens, which would have been the criterion for evacuating them. I then wrote back that I understand that these are the rules under normal circumstances of catastrophe, natural catastrophe, or conflict or something like that. That is what the laws are. I don't agree with that, but I understand that those are the laws. But right now, we're not talking about normal circumstances. We're talking about a genocide. And on top of it, we're talking about a genocide that these governments are actually complicit in. So the very least they could do is to help their own citizens get their relatives out of the places where these genocides are being committed. And I wrote that they were going to be judged by history, that actually they are acting in violation of the UN Convention Against Genocide, which the governments have signed, and which say that if a genocide takes place, is about to take place, or there's a very strong likelihood of it taking place, which is clearly the case in Gaza, then you are in a duty to try to stop it, prevent it, and to help the victims of it. Upon which they answered, if you don't have any new information, then please stop writing us, because we're not gonna answer your emails. And they've been answering this for a while now without any kind of sympathetic or personal notes connected to it, despite the fact that we have written about the relatives that have already been killed, the fact that they are starving, and it just seems very inhumane and very cold, and I think also very ignorant of international law and histories of genocide and atrocities. And I'm really disappointed, and also, in a sense, quite shocked that this is the way civil servants in the Danish and German administrations are reacting to this, even though I, of course, know that their complicity sets, the government's complicity sets structural barriers to their willingness to help us, that at least within these administrations, the human feeling and humanity would lead them to at least answer our emails in a less violent fashion. I would have expected.
Less automated responses fashion, because that's what we're getting. We're getting template answers that are already there, that seem like no one is even reading the email, that they're just sending you that, like, yeah, no, we can't do anything, and if you're not going to provide new information, we're actually going to stop writing you at all.
Okay.
So what is currently the response from the German state?
Following our application for family reunification through our lawyer, the latest response we got from the German migration is is putting them on a waiting list for an appointment for a visa in Cairo. So expecting them to go to Cairo, then apply for the visa, and then they will think about it, which is, I don't have the words for it, because not only do you know about the fact that Gazans cannot go anywhere out of Gaza, Gazans cannot go anywhere within Gaza without Israeli permits. And now you want them to just go to Cairo, apply for the visa as if that is what can happen. And I mean, Germany is one of the biggest exporters of weapons to Israel. Denmark has not divested. It still supports the Israeli arm industry. It's still shipping weapons to Israel. So the least these two governments can do is, while they're dropping bombs on us from their bombs that they are either manufacturing or shipping or both, so that while they drum these bombs on our families, they can help us get our families out, because they're the only ones with that power.
So what practical actions can a person who wants to help do?
So we recently created this flyer in different versions, which we handed out in Denmark at the Roskilde Festival, where we went. And it sums up some different things that we would like to request from people. If you are from Denmark and live in Denmark and have Danish citizenship, what you can do is to support a petition that we put up with the Danish government in order to try to change the regulation around who can be evacuated from areas where genocide or crimes against humanity take place, in order to extend it from not only being the underage children and spouses of Danish citizens, but to be relatives that go beyond that definition. Because the reality is, we don't just live through and with our underage children and spouses. We live in communities and families, and it heavily impacts the family to have someone be killed or at extreme risk of starvation or death in a genocide. So that is one thing you can do. Another thing is that we have a fundraiser for Enas' brother and his wife in Gaza right now, to just keep them alive, because even when they're able to get some food, the prices are extreme, very, very high, and we keep sending money to them, but we're asking for help to sustain that, and also we are asking for help in the sense that we ask people to write to the Danish and German governments, as we have done, but from other sides as well, in support of our case, for it to be more difficult for them to ignore us, because we want to show that we're not the only ones, that there are more people who think that they should take action in this case. And then, of course, we have a Substack where we tell their story. We have an Instagram and a Facebook page, and you can, like, subscribe, and so on and so forth. Share it, share their story, talk about it, help amplify their voice and Enas' voice or our voice in our attempts to help them and to force European governments to also take action, at least on the humanitarian side of things.
And I want to point out that when we're saying extremely expensive prices for the food or basic necessities, we're not talking Switzerland kind of expenses. We're talking genocide, man-made starvation kind of expensive. So 70 euros for 1 kilo of flour, or 60 euros for 1 kilo of sugar, if you're lucky. if you're lucky to find those things. And so it actually takes so much just to keep them alive through having access to money, to access food, because that's the only thing you can do. You cannot guarantee their life from being bombed or killed unless they're out of Gaza. But that you can do. And I would say again to like amplify their voices, hear them, listen to them, listen to their story, listen to the human life. They're humans. They're not just another number or a clickbait or a headline in a news article or a great content for a new documentary. They are humans with their whole lives ahead of them, their whole lives that they have lived, and to listen to them as that, to listen to them and hear them as the humans they are, listen to their story, amplify their voices, because also this is not just the story of Ahmed and Iman. This is the story of hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza. This is the story of so many of us living here in Europe who have family members and relatives and loved ones in Gaza. So they are two human stories to another 2 million human stories. And to listen to them with humanity, with understanding and care is the minimum we can do, and then amplify their voices, their story, and our story, our fight to save their lives. This is a fight to save their lives.
So what would you say people can do immediately right now?
If you're a citizen or a resident in Denmark or Germany, write to your government, pressure your government to apply this right to family reunification, evacuation from Gaza. Donate to maintain the survival of Ahmed and Iman. Sign our petition if you're in Denmark. Follow our story, follow our updates, and amplify this story, and talk to people in your community, talk to people in your city, talk to people around. The more there are of us, the better chance we have of actually saving them.
On our Substack and Instagram, we also have Ahmed's own voice telling about his situation in Gaza right now from voice notes. And we have a really great Irish artist, Anne Kiernan, who has illustrated this and drawn Ahmed and Iman in different paintings that you can also find there. And so shout out to her also. She's been doing really amazing work.
Stort tack till Marc i Serbien för den här intervjun och för att du lyfter de röster som sällan får höras. Fler intervjuer kommer med fler kamrater från hela den europeiska demokratiska rörelsen DiEM25, Democracy in Europe Movement. Men vi kan inte avsluta utan att tala klarspråk om det som pågår och vår roll i det som pågår. Folkmordet i Gaza sker inte i ett vakuum. Det är en del av en global struktur av kolonialism, kapitalism och militarism som möjliggörs av stater som Sverige. Vi exporterar vapen till Israel, vi köper vapen för Israel, deltar i EUs militarisering och har nu gått med i NATO. Samtidigt som vi kallar oss neutrala, fredliga, civiliserade. Det är en dubbelmoral. Men vad är det för civilisationen som tittar på medan barn bombas, sjukhus raderas och människor svälter med stöd från västvärlden? Vi måste se till exempel till Francesca Albaneses FN-rapport som pekar tydligt på företags och staters medskyldighet i folkmordet. NATOs roll är central. Hela den växande upprustningsekonomin är inte en garanti för fred. Det är en förlängning av imperialismen. En maskin som behöver krig för att fortsätta snurra. Vi måste våga se detta, våga tänka ultrakritiskt, våga ifrågasätta det som tas för givet i vår politik, vår ekonomi, vår självbild. För om vi verkligen vill ha demokrati, verklig levande demokrati, då räcker det inte med att rösta vart 4:e år. Vi behöver en demokratisk revolution, en omställning där människovärde går före marknadsvärde, där solidaritet går före profit och där vi inte bara sörjer folkmord utan organiserar oss för att stoppa folkmord. Kampen för Palestina är vår kamp och den fortsätter härifrån tillsammans. Tack för att du har lyssnat.